one for you.
We have this book.
This one's read by Samuel L. Jackson.
Go the fuck to sleep. I'll just guess.
It's great.
Presents Go the Fuck to Sleep.
It's great.
By Adam Mansbach.
This is
Narrated
a great
by
book.
Samuel L.
I
Jackson.
just want to hear like 2 seconds of it.
Very last book, if you swear, you'll go the fuck to sleep.
Hi, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations About Culture, your seriously pointless podcast about all your nerdy and geek things throughout time and the country of Armistice. I'm sorry, James. I knew I was going to
Your
jack
voice
that
is
up.
a little gritty today, David.
Well, you know, I've been working on being more rugged and manly. No, in fact, I'm losing my voice. Obviously, you heard that James's sultry tones. You know he's in the room today. We're also joined by the lovely Kelly. How you doing today, Kelly?
I'm good.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. We haven't seen you in a little while. What have you been up to?
Playing a lot of games, reading books.
Anything good?
Well, we're getting ready for the Burning Crusade.
You're both dead to me. He's already tried to like a drug dealer on the corner. He's already tried to sell me a dose of like Burning Crusade.
I'm just saying that you have a lot of free time right now, and this is the perfect time to jump in.
Yeah, because that's what I want my wife to see is like a charge for $15 a month or $10 a month, whatever it is.
I mean, that's if you pay for the month by month, yes. If you get the 6-month subscription.
Well, yes, because that's a good use of my time, right? 6 months of my life.
Yeah.
He agreed with me. Didn't even argue with me.
It's a great use of your time. You can play with your friends.
You're an awful influence. I'll tell you
Like
what.
I said, you
If
can
my
get a boost up to 58. You can start with us too.
If my schedule changes in the next month, I will be more than happy to get it with you guys. How about that? I'll make that allowance.
You're also going to have to fit the campaign that's going to, the D&D campaign that's going to start.
Yeah, I
pretty soon.
know. I'm super excited about this. Yeah, so Kelly's talking about we're actually doing it's a Pathfinder or is it D&D?
It's Pathfinder. We're doing
2.0
Pathfinder
now.
2nd edition.
Yeah, we've got a pretty cool setup. We're all kind of part of a mercenary band, and we're trying a little bit something different. It's not the stereotypical "you're the good guys, you got to save the kingdom."
Mm-hmm.
So,
If anyone has listened to the Chain of Acheron by Matt Colville, I think it's
loosely based on that, like the idea, not the setting
if you guys,
at all.
Not at all, but the general concept.
If you guys want to watch some really awesome videos out there, guys, check out Matt Colville. The man is an RPG master, in my opinion.
Actually, his running the game series is great. And one thing I found particularly insightful is he gives a lot of the cultural context of when these games were first coming out. Like he's talking about classic, Pulp Fiction and sci-fi books and like the things that inspired the guys who wrote these.
Which is really cool, which I'm kind of hoping, I don't know if you noticed, I did a script for Pathfinder 2.0, and I'm kind of hoping to kind of delve into that a little bit and see kind of.
I would love to chat about that. I think we've got enough under our belt now
that we can talk about it.
We have to get the whole crew to come in on that one.
That would be really fun. I might have to get a couple more mics. So, or maybe we can do it online. So.
Yeah.
That's probably the safer bet.
I recently described it online to a friend that you can build your own unique special snowflake of a murder hobo.
Yep. Yes, you can. That's why I love Pathfinder. It's wholly unique as compared to like D&D where you have to get in like cookie cutter type stuff. So
yeah,
it's fun though.
And that's what I found is like if you're building for like power gaming, it's a little bit less satisfying in some ways because there is not as much you can do to break the system.
No,
but if you're building to build characters that you enjoy that can do things the way you want them to be done, you can do whatever you want.
You can make it work.
I noticed
like
that
my character for the upcoming campaign took the the archetype dandy.
That's right, you did.
He's got an ability called Gossip Lore, which gives him one piece of truth and one piece of fiction about anything.
With his name, first name having to be Space and then Dandy.
You know, it's not too late for me to change the name.
Kelly's going to kill us. So obviously, we know Kelly's whole free time has been made up of setting up the campaign for us. What else? What have you been up to, James?
Oh goodness, we have been playing through the Mario game you lent us. Which one was it?
Super Mario World 3D.
The Super Mario World 3D World. We've gotten up to the Castle Kingdom now. We've been having a blast. Oh my god! That.
Did you not see did you guys see the sheer the difficulty level just jumps?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, we haven't actually done a level. We kind of do. We've been doing one world for each evening. We sit down to play it. We've been making sure to get all the stamps and stars as we go. I've not been obsessing over the flag topping thing, but we've gotten all the stars and stamps because I don't want to miss anything.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I didn't really look at all going after the tops of the flags all that much, but I am obsessed about getting those stars and those stamps. Mm-hmm. I'm missing a few stamps here and there, and it's just driving me insane.
For shame.
I didn't have a friend to play with. I'm kind of hoping
it helps a lot, except for there are a few levels where it actually hurts, and it was very frustrating.
Some of the dumb ones where you have to jump off the edge and then bounce off the wall and get back just in time. When you have two players, you can try it a couple times and not have to restart the whole level, which is nice.
It is nice. So,
but then you have one where the whole floor falls out when someone jumps, and having to time your jumps together.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, so fun.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I might have screamed a few times when I was by myself trying to do it, and I'm just this is stupid. Doing it by just one person is infuriating. I can only imagine having two people.
Yeah, I thought the world in the third or fourth world where it does blink, blink, and then disappears was bad. No, that one was a cakewalk. The one where the floor flips every time you jump is bad.
It annoyed. I got mad. Jackie might have heard me drop a few F-bombs.
Well, because inevitably they put all the enemies that shoot projectiles at you on those levels so that you have to jump.
And so when you do jump and you just stand there and you fall and you die, and you're just what is this bullshit?
And it's even better with two players because there's two people jumping.
And so you have to talk to each other the whole time while you do it, right?
Eventually it's okay, this is my section of the level. You just stay there and wait.
And hopefully we bubble and you just get me to the other side.
And you can do it second and it'll be fine.
That's a smart idea. I like it. So
we've been having a ton of fun with that. I've been cranking my way through Repentance a little bit.
There you go.
I finally beat the mother boss. Nice. And I beat Dogma.
I think he's finally surpassed me in Isaac's skill.
What, James?
And I unlocked my first tainted character, so I feel like I've accomplished something in the game.
I got to sit down and actually start pushing through buying the Repentance update because I keep getting sidetracked, dude. I don't know if you've noticed. I played a lot of what was I playing the other day? I got on and I've been playing Borderlands and I was playing a couple other things on. I think I played. Your Majesty. Have you seen that one at all?
I haven't seen Your Majesty.
It's interesting. So it's on Xbox Game Pass. It kind of reminds me of Rain, the side scroller.
Okay.
It's kind of like that. The only difference is it's more of you're the king. You're basically, obviously, you're the king of a kingdom, and you have to basically interact with subjects that come into your throne room, and you have to basically say yay or nay.
I think I saw Dangerously Funny do that one.
It's pretty fun, actually. Yeah. And you have to deal with basically an oncoming horde that's basically coming to invade because you promised this one guy the hand of your daughter a long time ago as long as he stayed away. Well, now he knows that she's old enough to get married. He's like, I'm coming for her, and they're invading over the mountains, and you're just like, So you have to basically either build up an army or basically be willing to give her away.
So it's like the last 10 minutes of Fable 3.
Essentially.
But a whole game.
But way better, and I think it's 16-bit.
I'm still mad about that. I know it's been many years, but I'm still disappointed by Fable 3.
It is.
And I know we're way off topic now. But
yeah, and you can imagine they're actually talking about making another Fable after all. It just annoys me. Anyways, yeah. So is there anything else before you guys want to talk about before we get into the Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood episode, which I
just a general screw you to Peter Molyneux.
That's pretty much.
I mean, your career peaked with Goddess and not Goddess with Panopolis.
Yeah,
the one on the Super NES, and it's kind of gone downhill since then. Sorry, dude.
Wow, that's kind of cold.
Yeah.
That was cold. I know.
That was cold.
It came out of nowhere.
You're just an angry man today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of grit in your stare there.
Grit your teeth.
That's right. Nobody. Sorry, that's a personal joke we've been going about. So, anyways, James made grits the other night.
I made some beautiful shrimp and grits, and this gentleman here besmirched the name of grits everywhere.
Grits are gross, and
has arisen the ire of the surprising proportion of the Southern community in Cape Girardeau, which
your Uncle John,
who has challenged you to a duel to the death.
That's okay. I chose old age, and we will see who dies first, and we'll see who the winner is. So yeah,
what I thought was particularly inspired.
I know. I
particularly choosing Lewis as your second.
That's exactly. Nice. So if your Uncle John dies, even before, after I do, Lewis is significantly luckier than both of you. So I'm like, we're good.
Because I'm like, like I probably won't outlive David, but I'm definitely not outliving Lewis.
I may not outlive Lewis. That's a slight, Jesus. Anyways, guys, let's get into Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes, so the legendary Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yeah, so this one is very similar to the original anime that is Fullmetal Alchemist, with a few tweaks, right?
Yeah, because this one is strange because they made a Fullmetal Alchemist, I think this one was back in the 90s originally.
Yep.
And it was a 26-episode special, and at the time, the manga was wildly popular.
Yep.
Yes.
And it was distinctly unfinished. Like it wasn't even like half done. But they made this anime, and rather than string it along, because you probably recall in the 90s they didn't do like the one season at a time like they do now.
Yeah, they just did big.
They did the whole thing.
Filler
so 26 episode block, and the writers just finished it.
Yep.
And so the first, 7 or 8 episodes of the Fullmetal Alchemist series are pretty much identical to what eventually happens in Brotherhood.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it, they pretty much just wrote the ending for.
Yep, they really did.
Which, strangely enough, it's actually a really good anime on its own right.
Honestly, yeah.
If it wasn't for Fullmetal Alchemist just being better in every way, the Brotherhood version, it would still be a top 10 classic anime.
Well, because the Brotherhood version, they actually got the writer of it, Hiromu. I'm going to butcher her last name is Arakawa. I believe that's what her last name is.
You're right.
She, like I said, whenever she first came up with the idea of Fullmetal Alchemist, and she was still writing, like you said, whenever they were coming, they were like, because they immediately, like a production company, like immediately jumped on this and like, we want to make this into an anime because it just immediately soared. It was super popular in Japan. They're like, if we can make this into an anime, this is probably going to be one of those things we could probably start to ship over to the US. And because this is about the time that anime was actually getting fairly popular in the US at the time, because you had Cowboy Bebop coming out in the US, you had DBZ already. And so you had these other things. They're like, well, let's try and make something a little bit more serious.
Well, and it also has a very Western theme.
Yes.
Very much.
I mean, and alchemy and, Western magic in general is popular in Japan too. But that's one of the reasons why Cowboy Bebop, for example, was so big in the U.S. is that alchemy is just a very relatable idea for us.
Well, in Bebop, it's very much a gangster style kind of.
It's a gangster space opera.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's wonderful.
You could pretty much rip it out of one of the old Pulp Fiction books.
I believe it's called a space western.
Okay, you're right.
She definitely
a space western and not a space opera.
That was Kelly Knox.
For those of you who don't know, Cowboy Bebop is one of Kelly's most favorite animes of all time.
It is my favorite anime.
So we'll concede this point. We were wrong. You've heard it from us first.
For those of you who don't know, the difference between a space opera and a space western is mostly a matter of scale and tone.
Yeah.
For example, like Star Wars might be considered more of a space opera.
Yeah. I can see
with the world hopping and the grand events, and then the space western is more like something like Firefly or Cowboy Bebop, where it's more about smaller local stuff.
Yes.
I love both of those.
It's more episodic.
Both are great genres, but
so this was the biggest difference, like you were saying, is like I said, once they get the first couple episodes, 7 or 8 episodes of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and the original are pretty much identical.
Yeah, very similar.
But after that, she basically puts her hand in there and says, I want to have a 1-to-1 adaptation of the manga to an anime. This is after, like you said, the hugely popular Fullmetal Alchemist came over. It was loved by tons of fans. It garnered a huge, fan base. And she's like, well, let's do it my way now. Let's do it. Let's do the full manga and put it out to you guys the way I want it to be. And, luckily, Arakawa, she, like I said, she didn't hold back at all.
No.
Yeah, no, they did the full story. They didn't rearrange it. They didn't cut it. They didn't remove characters.
Perfect.
And it was 64 episodes.
64 episodes. Right.
So
it was paced extremely well.
Where they do 13 episode series now. So this was 4 seasons.
Yeah. I remember sitting down and watching this within, I think, 3 or 4 days the first time I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Which that is ridiculous. Because so you're thinking about
we don't just binge like that these days.
No,
we're too old for that now.
I maybe get like 3 or 4 episodes at most. If I'm having like a really rough day, I'm just like I want to veg pretty good. That's about an hour and a half that I can sit there and watch. You know, most of the time I'll watch maybe 20-minute episodes. Yeah,
because the ADD kicks in and it's like, okay, this is great, but I can't
know what
watch
you're
it
talking about.
They've never listened to this show before.
Yeah, it's true.
This is news to them, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Nobody knows. Nobody thinks we have.
So yeah, that is one pitfall that it avoids, that a lot of animes that are direct copies of the manga they're based on is that they always screw up the pacing, and they don't do that, and they do such a good job.
I can see that very much. And like if you look at something like, I hate to say it, but I'm going to have a shout out, but Vazoo, like with my buddy Vazoo, he loves Naruto, but the pacing, it's literally, they kind of do almost a little bit of 1-to-1, but a lot of times they have to go in there, they do fillers sometimes.
Filler episodes, but even if they don't do filler, taking things out of order so it makes sense.
Yeah, and it ruins the storyline.
Yeah,
and that's something we ran into recently with Black Clover.
Mm-hmm.
There was this whole demon worshiper arc. It was like a full freaking 30 episodes or something.
Christmas.
I almost quit watching the show. It was just so bad. It didn't make any damn sense. It ruined a lot of the characters.
Randomly throw that in there.
Yeah. But it's a filler arc.
I hate filler arcs to no end. So
people are trying to recreate, like, you know, the One Piece and, you know, the big.
They want that merchandising.
Yes.
They want the big marketable shonen merchandising, and I like Black Clover, but I don't think it's going to be that type of show.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'd be better off chopping it up and leaving out the fillers.
Yes.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this: when did you, seeing as we're talking about it when it first came about, when did you guys first see? We'll start with this. When did you first see Fullmetal Alchemist, the first one?
So many years.
Let's ask Kelly first.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I don't remember when I first saw it. It's so long ago. I really don't remember. I know I watched it.
If it helps, it aired on Toonami back in the day.
I didn't watch it on Toonami. That was not one of those. That wasn't one of the shows I watched. I didn't watch it on there. I think I watched it with you once we started dating.
That sounds like something I would have
done.
done.
So let me ask you: you watched Toonami whenever you were in high school?
Yeah, I did.
You were an anime nerd before. I knew I liked her a lot.
Yeah, she actually.
I saw Cowboy Bebop when it was aired on Toonami.
Cowboy Bebop
and Ghost in the Shell, and
she owned the entire Fruits Baskets manga. I mean, she read manga on her own too. She was quite the nerd.
Single tear.
She hit it in college a little bit. It wasn't until we got married that I realized how much of an anime nerd she was.
You looked out really well.
I looked out.
We both picked out. That's what we did. We picked out great wives, and we're just like, I'm like, mine was like, do you know there's this thing called Miyazaki? I'm like, what are these full length anime films? And I'm like, I was so wrong. These are amazing. See?
Which Jackie surprised me, to be honest.
I didn't expect that at all. I thought she was just some nerdy autistic girl. I was just like, maybe she's just really shy and she reads books really a lot. But no, she really liked anime. And I was like, I'm pleasantly surprised. We can sit down and watch something together. But anyways, that's awesome. So we saw ours on
I saw it on Toonami when it was running originally.
I'm pretty sure you and Cole got me hooked into it. Because
that sounds like one of the
Because didn't it come out on Toonami, was it freshman year of high school or 8th grade?
It came out in 2 parts. I remember like the first 13 episodes or the first chunk, they ran it for a long time.
That was before I started watching Toonami.
And the finishing bit didn't come out till a lot later. So I remember watching it several times.
I remember, that's like everything on Toonami. You could literally watch the same episode of like Cowboy Bebop like 4 or 5 times before they show a new episode.
Okay. You want me to tell you the most egregious thing I ever saw on Toonami?
Go ahead.
Do you remember the Giant Robot Week they did back?
I think so.
The first time they did a Giant Robot Week for Toonami, and this was in the early 2000s, I think. And they aired the first 2 episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Really? Oh, yeah.
On the first 2 days,
you did tell me
it was a full week of Giant Robot Week. During the first 2 days, they aired 2 episodes of Neon Genesis, and then they just stopped. They never mentioned the show ever again. And this is why I ended up eventually getting the DVDs to watch it. I was so upset about that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that can be one of our favorite animes.
But yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist, I saw it on Toonami originally, and it was great.
I'm pretty sure I saw it. Like I said, I saw it whenever we do sleepovers, either at your house or like Cole's house, because that's where I also picked up like watching like Naruto, because Cole was super into Naruto too.
I read the Naruto manga, and I was really into the manga, but I could never get into the Naruto anime.
See, I got into about 200 episodes of it, and I was like, I gotta stop. It just kept on going. Man.
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, I like some shonen, but like, it's got to have a finite kind of like encapsulating thing, which is kind of, I'm saying, even though I wouldn't classify. What would you classify Full Metal as? Full Metal, like it's not a shonen. Is it a shonen?
I don't know. I don't think it is. It's not really a shonen.
It's not your typical like, cookie cutter pulp shonen with the gigantic cast. I mean, it's not like
everyone's got a crazy trait.
It's not like My Hero Academia or something. It's not a Naruto or a One Piece or something.
It has a more condensed storyline than most shonens do.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's shonen in the sense that it's directed at boys,
young men.
As opposed to like a shoujo. But it's not like a grown-up man one.
That's true.
I would call it. It's one of those that straddles that gap between anime that are geared towards boys and girls.
Yeah, because it's a lot more neutral.
It's very much more
shonen
more
normally is.
Yeah, because
it's definitely adventure. It's a type of dark fantasy.
What do they classify?
It could even have some steampunk elements. That's what it says on the Wikipedia article.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even if they would classify it as a shonen, I think it leans more towards more of a centrist.
Yeah, it's not targeted at, I don't think, specifically
especially
boys.
With the writer being female. I think she threw a lot more. And I think it's what kind of lends towards it a little bit too. Tell me if I'm wrong, Kelly, on this. But with the writer being female, I think it's able to have a lot more, honest character development.
Yes,
I think say so something too. Like even like My Hero Academia, which I love, but it's kind of like goofy at times. Like it's always that big moment. Like I don't know if you guys watched the newest episode.
Okay, so this won the 49th Shokugan Manga Award for the Shonen category in 2004. So.
No.
Fine, it's shonen.
It's technically a shonen.
Technically,
but I think you're right about the anime having depth.
Absolutely. So like, and I think like it's not like say it's not Baku. It's the one guy that's got flame, basically explosion hands. I can't remember his name for the life of me. But anyways, like he just did the last episode. Like he had a big moment where he's just like, "Oh, no matter what, I will defend you, and I'll be your friends to no matter what." Rah! And it's like that was the high point because he never called them his friends before, and they finally just admitted that in there. And I'm like, they don't
instead of trying to say he's killing them.
Yeah, I'm like, but like they don't do that in Fullmetal Alchemist.
No,
they let the emotions, or even just like a glance or a hug or an action to speak for itself.
Yeah,
and I think it's a lot more authentic.
Definitely,
absolutely. So
it's written more like a story, or a novel or a film, and less like a TV show.
Well, well, shonens are
more like a kids' TV show, really.
Well, I think shonens are more focused on character development and what the characters are doing and the unique characters instead so much on story, and that's good. It's a way of telling a story, but that's what I think differs from with Brotherhood is that it focused more on the stories and less on the crazy characters.
That's true. There's not like, because like in your typical shonen, we can pick on My Hero Academia a little bit. It can take it. But
absolutely.
You have the villain of the week. So like Gentle Criminal.
That's right.
Like, that, okay, great. He's cool. He's a character. He's a lot of fun. I love the mustache.
Of course.
But he shows up. He does his thing. They fight for a little bit. And then
you hear his backstory.
There's going to be 2 episodes of his emotional backstory before he can be defeated. And there were 2 full episodes. That's just how they do it. There's none of that in Brotherhood.
No, not at all.
It's about the overarching story and the overarching situation. There's a lot of politics.
And we do get flashbacks about people's past and their character development, but it's very brief and it's relevant to the storyline.
Yeah.
It's never just because we want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what they talk about Al and Elric's, the Elric brothers' teacher, the lady, they talk about like how she like tried to bring her baby back to life that's relevant to the story, and they show a back part of that. I'm like, and that is like super poignant. You know, it makes sense why they have it in there. So I think
she's badass, by the way.
She's like, one of the coolest characters in the whole thing.
Yep.
And that's one thing. Another thing they do in this that I think was kind of ahead of its time is they have incredibly strong female leads in this without making them.
They're vulnerable.
I guess
it's not preachy.
What it is, the problem
either.
with the current like strong female characters that all of them don't have any flaws. They don't have. They're perfect as they are. They don't need to grow. They don't have any problems in their past, and they're just boring.
Yeah.
Good strong female characters struggle. They improve. Yeah. They make mistakes.
That's any character in general.
Yeah, but that's in your character. They're a character. They're not a symbol. They're not a character. Yes.
Character. That's a good point. I like that character. So, and that's one of the things I noticed in that is like they do that. And I think that's what kind of drew me to this a little bit more. I'm like, oh, this is kind of an interesting take on that. Mm-hmm. So let's do this though before we get into like kind of just, wildly flaming around. Do you want to do a brief synopsis, James or Kelly? Let's ask Kelly. Kelly, do you want to do a brief synopsis?
Sure.
I know. You're so pissed I asked you, didn't you?
Putting you on the spot.
That's right. Let's hear your take on what the whole, just brief. It doesn't have to be in depth or like that. Don't go Jackie in depth because she literally went over the entire plot of, what was it? The Marvel or the Avengers movie. She did the whole thing. I was like, sweetheart. I was like, people have to watch this.
Yeah, people have to listen to it. The storyline focuses on two brothers. I'm going to forget their names.
Edward and Alphonse.
Edward and Alphonse, and their attempt to overcome a mistake they made in trying to bring back their dead mother, and as a result of trying to do that, Edward lost part of his body. He lost his leg and his arm, and Alphonse lost his whole body. Yep. And he's just inhabiting a suit of armor. And so them going out in the quest, dealing with the political situation of their country in order to gain enough power and knowledge in order to restore themselves back to normal. And
at the beginning of the series, they think the key to doing that is the Philosopher's Stone.
Yes.
So I'm going to make a caveat before we get super in depth in this. I want to point out that there are going to be spoilers on this. So if you haven't seen the anime, pause it now, go watch it. But I also want to say for us, let's not go super too in depth because I want people to go out and watch this.
Yes.
Because that's one of those things. Is like whenever we just did a Nausicaa episode. By the time this one comes out. I want people to go watch it because it's something I love very much. And I tried not to go super in depth in it, but Jackie, of course, had to just tell you the whole, I love her to death. But she's like, I have to tell you everything.
Yes.
I'm like,
she's a teacher. That's
she's
what teachers do.
She's very much a teacher.
Which is strange to me for Nausicaa especially. And you already did a Nausicaa episode, but for me, it's more about like the journey of it. It's not as much about the individual plot points and characters for Nausicaa.
It's like I said, it's just a different way of people explain things differently. And Jackie I go, why don't you just give a brief synopsis? And she told them everything.
Well, what I would like to talk about is I remember you actually cosplayed as a Fullmetal Alchemist character.
Yes. Yeah. This is my introduction to you, was seeing that photo.
Were you guys dating by then? Or was this before?
No, this is before. I hadn't met you.
Oh, that's right.
And I was actually friends with Jackie.
Yeah.
And
this is before Kelly and I knew each other very well, but she was friends with Jackie originally in the art and music.
You probably saw him like wandering around the parking lot staring up at the sky. I love you to death, man. I know what you're talking about. I love you to death, man. But you were so absent-minded when you were in college. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, and
changed it all,
she was just showing me
better at faking it now.
some pictures of you, and that was one of them.
I was proud of that. So I let my hair grow out super long, and I shaved my head, and I had the little curl. So the character they're talking about is Louis Armstrong, and he is who they call the I forgot what his
Alex
title
Louis Armstrong.
Alex Louis Armstrong, but what is his title? Alchemist. He is the
Strong Arm Alchemist.
Is he the Strong Arm Alchemist? Because he has these. I'm gonna be honest right now. It's been about 5 years.
He's
since
from
I
a long
watched
line of generations of alchemists.
He's one of the best
Passed down
characters.
from generation to generation. I remember that. Okay, because when I dressed up as that, some guy came up to me. He's just like, does this little like hand gesture at me, like, and I'm like, what? I'm like totally blank on the line. I remember the first time I did that, and I knew it after that. Though we were at that con, so I dressed up as this character. And he is like
right. Your mom actually made the costume.
My mom was a BAMF. Okay, that was something I was like.
It turned out really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually still have that costume.
Like, I knew she could sew, but
well, you should put a picture on the Facebook.
I'll throw it on there for you guys. And like I said, it doesn't matter. And I was significantly heavier than I was now. But like at the same time though, I had so much fun playing that character and dressing up as that character because it kind of gives you that, you know. Just like Halloween, it gives you that chance to like step out of who you are, your own skin for a little bit, and play as somebody else. So
well, and because you did that and that was actually before Brotherhood came out. This was from the original one. Yeah. And so one of my favorite scenes in Brotherhood is whenever the Alex Louise Armstrong meets Edward's teacher's husband, who is a butcher.
Yes.
They have this scene where they're just kind of standing there.
They're both very burly men.
They're both very burly,
very muscular men.
And you know, the Alex Armstrong, he's more of like your ripped, like, you know, champion type guy,
bodybuilder kind of
and
guy.
The butcher guy, he's more.
He has a dad bod.
Well, he's more like it's like a power lifter bod, where his arms are ripped, but he's got some
he's got a bit of a gut on him.
Yeah, he looks more like a power lifter type. Yeah. And they have this flex off in the butcher shop,
and they greet each other and flex, and their shirts just disintegrate.
Sparkles.
It's just sparkles and forearm like muscle bands and tendons are bending. It's great.
Like incredible valor, respectable muscles.
It's like I said, this is one of those animes. It has those really just amazing moments where you're just like, and then
they lampshaded at the end with sloth.
Yes. And I'm just like, what is this? So let's like I said, let's do a little bit more brief overview. Because I know we did.
Anyway, they become alchemists.
They join the military to become alchemists.
In this world, the government is basically, essentially, it's ran by an alchemist government, essentially.
Yes,
but that's kind of it's more of a militaristic kind of arm.
It's a military and there is an emperor who is the head of the military.
Well, they call him a Führer.
The Führer.
A little bit on the nose. But it is what it is. So.
Well, you know.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't help. There's also this association in Japan between the idea of magic and the idea of German stuff.
Yes.
To be fair, though,
if you it fits very naturally in the Japanese mindset.
If you want to get,
that is a fun thing.
There's some really, really crazy things though. Like back in like the 40s, whenever Hitler was like trying to win the war, he was very much like into like anything I can do to try to win the war. Like that's where you get like the Thule Society and all this stuff. That is some fun stuff.
Yeah.
To look
Kelly
at.
was actually just listening to Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World this morning on Project Stargate, which is
the American version of the same thing.
It's the same. The Americans did the same things. We just were better at hiding it a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was very much in the open about it.
Yeah.
That's why people were like, "This guy's nuts."
Well,
until the men who stare at goats blew wide open.
Yeah.
That's
well,
right.
and
to be fair though, without Hitler's jump towards the occult, we would have had Hellboy. I'm just saying. So
that's true.
That's just me.
But
anyways,
I think the German connection is a bit simpler than that. In Japan, I think German is so unique sounding to their ears that it sounds magical. Just like in English, when we think magic, we think
German,
Latin.
You think German sounds magical, do you?
To Japanese, yes.
That's not the word I would have used for it, though. But we'll go.
Well, like dark, mysterious, powerful. Comparing
powerful, sure. I'll concede that the German language definitely sounds powerful.
Well, I think it sounds magical. I agree with Kelly.
How do you think of Latin? We hear Latin, and our culture just makes that connection of like occult, mysterious, magical, in sense.
And that's why a lot of times they use it in films and stuff like that. So
because that's what it invokes, and I think that I've seen it so much in anime used in this context that it's that's just how it in my mind must connect.
Yeah, I think World War II is also just it's a big cultural touchstone for the whole world.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's why it's called World War.
Because because it's a very approachable, relatable Western setting that Japanese people are already familiar with.
Yep. They already know these terms.
And they do have a different perspective of World War II than we do.
I mean, they were part of the Axis powers at the point. So, but yeah, they take that kind of concept and she puts it, the author, Arakawa, she puts it into this setting of where you have this militaristic government that is basically invading a weaker country this time in Ishval,
which
it's very Middle Eastern looking.
Very Middle Eastern.
They've got kind of some Muslim overtones.
Yes.
So. In the religious stuff they depict and some of their purity type things they talk about.
Which you can tell that it's like, oh, okay, this makes a little more sense, because, they did this a little bit in the World War II, because it's essentially it's them invading Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes.
and there's even a stand-in third power that gets mentioned later on, Sheng, which is kind of like a Chinese stand-in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a microcosm of World War II, but with alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to watch. So essentially, these boys they have their mother. And she dies, and they try to bring her back, and it goes horribly wrong. We don't want to go into that much. They lose their bodies, or they lose
part of their bodies.
Part of the bodies.
Edward loses parts of his body, and then Alphonse loses his body, but he keeps his soul gets put into basically a suit of armor.
It goes to the show.
Yeah, essentially. Thank you for that, James. And so they decide, they're like, well, we're going to bring our mother back. We're going to fix it. Or first we're going to fix our problem, and then we're going to bring our mother back. We're going to do this. Mm-hmm. Like Kelly said, they think that the Philosopher's Stone is the way to do it. Mm-hmm. Well, they have to go about learning alchemy. And so they go to, they try to find a teacher, which the teacher is the person you were talking about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Which I believe her name is...
Which she gets featured later as a flashback type thing.
Yeah, mm-hmm. they do a really good job about moving this stuff around. They don't just straight up say, like an actual concurrent timeline. They move things around. They kind of do a flashback later on, whatever. I think they go for a recoup, or the first time they meet her for a while, they do a flashback there. And so she essentially teaches them alchemy, and then they go off to do work for the government, essentially.
Yes.
And this is where they kind of...
And the real story really gets going, because at first they're just kind of bumbling around looking for the alchemist stone. Yeah. But then they kind of stumble into the internal politics of the government.
Very much.
And they get all wrapped up in that with the various characters of the two sides kind of
and you find out
fighting for control.
You already know the government's not really a good thing.
Yes.
But you find out pretty quickly that the government are really not a good thing.
Yes.
Yes. And what exactly they're doing wrong is one of the big differences between the original Fullmetal Alchemist and the Brotherhood.
Yes. And that's where the plot differs.
Because the original Fullmetal Alchemist had the government's cooking down human beings and a Philosopher's Stone thing going on, which is not really the case of what's going on in Brotherhood.
Not quite. It's more of we're trying to put all this power into one person.
Yeah, it's more just blatant corruption.
Yes.
Blatant corruption. And it's a great thing that they kind of they show the differences, because let me ask you this: which ending would you which kind of so bad guy plan? We'll just call it bad guy plan A, bad guy plan B. Which one did you like more? Like the first, the original?
Hands down.
Yeah, Brotherhood hands down.
The ending was the weakest part of the other one. I thought the other anime was great until it got to the last 3 or 4 episodes where it just kind of fell apart.
It just kind of fell, it fell apart. And it left, and it didn't tie up all the loose ends. And there were so many things you're like, what's happening? Yeah. What's going on? And it just kind of ends.
Yeah.
And
it's
just
why they came out with that little movie afterwards. I forgot what it was called. It was Sins of Ishval or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
Star of Ishval.
Star of Ishval. That's what it is. And it kind of tries to tie up a few of the loose ends a little bit, and it kind of does it. It doesn't do a very good job of that.
Yeah, and it just...
I felt like they really did Hohenheim's character a big disservice.
Yes, they did.
The original too, because they're I could tell that he had been introduced in the manga, but not really explained at that point, and they were trying to make sense, and so they made him and this female alchemist character lovers who were broken up, and it just
it didn't like that at all.
Because I think part of the charm of the story is the purity of Hohenheim's relationship with Edward's mother.
Yes,
and that's part of his redemption as a character. is his participation with that. And I thought they just did a much better job of it in Brotherhood.
They did, absolutely. So,
and Hohenheim is Edward and Alfred's father.
Yeah.
Big spoiler.
Do you know where the Hohenheim name came from, actually? There's a historical.
I think you should tell me, James, because I don't. My brain's not working.
It was actually the name of a charlatan alchemist.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
He changed his name to become an alchemist, and he plied the favor of kings and stuff for a while, but he named himself Philippus Areolus Paracelsus Bombastus von Hohenheim.
You know what? Without that, I would never have known that. Thank you. Now I'm going to be down a rabbit hole after you guys leave. So
I had to memorize a bunch of stuff about him whenever I was doing my chemistry fraternity because, alchemy and chemistry are tight. So
I love you to death. I'm sorry. It's just like the most random bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
But yeah, if you're familiar with the history of science, like pre-Newton era,
yeah.
Alchemy was the face of that, and
alchemy and chemistry were pretty much the same thing at that point.
He was one of the less talented alchemists in that he didn't actually advance the science very much, but he was a very talented talker.
That's right. And a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of alchemists were labeled charlatans a little bit back in that day because they would proclaim things like, "I have an elixir of life," or "I can turn, lead into gold," or whatever it is.
Well, and that's generally the theme with a lot of the alchemists, at least the ones who got their name big enough to be remembered in history, is they either were independently wealthy enough to fund this type of research.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, a lot of this was not producing concrete, marketable results. And so people who were doing science, a lot of people were doing it for the fun of it or in pursuit of some type of goal.
Usually some rich person with a lot of extra time on their hands.
Exactly. And so, for astronomy, for example, a lot of the best inventions for astronomy and lens grinding was there was a society of rich old men who had enough time to learn how to grind perfect lenses. Yep. And alchemy wasn't an exception. And the other class of people who got remembered were the people who were, frankly, charlatans who were getting the king to pay for their research. And so I don't know what they were trying to accomplish on their own, but the way they got rich people to fund them was like, well, hey, if you pay for me to research for a year, then I'll make you an elixir of life so you can be king forever.
The elixir of life.
Yeah. Well, and
a lot of them were frankly poisonous.
Probably.
There was a lot of mercury involved.
Nope.
Well, and if you do know some history of alchemy and some of its characters are some of the famous claims of alchemy in our world, they make a lot of references to that in
Brotherhood.
And
they
do.
Part of why I brought it up is there's a lot of references to it.
And so we're not going to go over all of them, but if you guys want to dig into that a little bit, because once you start to meet the characters in the anime, you'll be like, look up the last name or whatever it is.
Yeah, or middle name or something, or their title.
Clearly, the history of alchemy was an interest to the author because this isn't just like one name tossed in.
So
it's a lot of
that's actually really cool. So she had actually, or Kawan actually, it's something I have written down here. She had actually gotten the concept of the manga after reading a book about the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where she started. I started kind of like writing things up, and she's just like, oh. And essentially it's just a natural progression. She started learning about, she read about the Philosopher's Stone somewhere. And I was like, well, that's kind of an interesting concept. And it's like, oh, it's alchemy. And she started just like picking up all these other little books about alchemy and things like that. And then she's like, well, this would be a really interesting concept. Yeah. That's kind of where this came from. So
this is one thing I found interesting too, is in Brotherhood, they pick up some of it. It's still kind of very much a science-driven idea, but for the original alchemist, the pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone wasn't just a physical act; it was also kind of a spiritual act.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
it's like the idea of trying to refine and reach. The Philosopher's Stone was the prime materia; it was the original, like, perfect material, and its purity was what let you turn things into gold. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of spiritual practice bound up into that, and you see some of that in Brotherhood. Especially as you get towards the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Or even like in the Ishval whole thing.
Ishval as well.
There's a lot of references to that as well.
Well, and they kind of hint at it too a lot about in like the country of Zhang, I'm going to say
Zhang, yeah.
They have very much, they talk about their alchemy a little bit. And you never get to experience that at all, but they very much talk about how
get a little like at the very end.
Alchemy, yeah. They talk about the dragon veins and stuff.
It's very much they do a lot of religion with alchemy, and they don't really see it as much.
It's more like Chinese medicine,
exactly,
is what it is.
And that's one like part of the world that I really, really wanted to see,
and
we never got into it. And she's expressed it, like and like. I'm never going to do anything else with this.
You know, a fun OVA would be Armstrong's Family's Vacation.
I would love to do that.
Okay, so this isn't much of a spoiler. This is one of my
the best scenes in the
so Armstrong has a sister.
Yes,
General Armstrong. Olivia
Armstrong. She's like the Iron General in the North, and at one point she decides that for the good of the family.
Because the political stuff is coming to head, and she's concerned about the safety of her family.
That what needs to happen is she's going to inherit the family title despite being the younger sibling.
Yep.
and her father being very much still young and healthy enough to rule. And that she's going to inherit, and they're going to leave. And she walks into the room, and she's like, "Father, I think it's time I become head of the family."
No, you retire, and you name me head of the family.
Like, you need to retire, you need to name me head of the family, and you guys need to go on vacation for a few months.
But he's like, but Alex was going to do it.
Like, but I thought Alex was going to. And he's like, that sniveling worm, I'll kill him. He's like, and then her dad's like, okay, you guys work that out. It's like, mother, child, we're going on vacation.
Yeah.
And so, Grandpa and Grandma and Alex's younger siblings are all getting packed up and leaving. Lord knows where.
And Olivia is just beating the snot out of Alex in the background.
So it's great because you look at her and she's probably she's a tall lady, but she's much thinner and less muscular than he is. And
she's not an alchemist.
She's not an alchemist either. But she's just so tough that despite him being an alchemist, he stands no chance.
Nope, none at all. And that's what I love about that, because it's like he's a major and she's a general. I'm just like, this is phenomenal.
And she's the younger one, yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So let me ask you guys this. So obviously we have great love for the story and the characters in here. What are some of the major themes that you guys see that pop up in the anime that people could kind of expect to maybe look at, and you think they would like to see? I know one right off the top of my head.
Well, go for it.
Okay, so obviously death and rebirth.
Okay.
It's a central tenet of this whole anime.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's points in here where obviously it starts at the beginning where their mom is she dies and they try to bring her back. And they basically have to come to terms almost with it at the very end that there's a cycle.
Yeah.
And it's a natural cycle, and if you screw with that, bad things happen.
Yeah, I think truth is another theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's in Brotherhood. It's not really in the older one, but the pursuit of truth. There's a little bit of epistemology in there too. What is the truth? And in the show, the truth is kind of represented by the gate, and you don't really see it till the very, very end. But
so the gate,
what is the truth in the world, and what is the truth? Because for them, alchemy is a phenomena they can do, but they don't know what it is or where it comes from, or
why it works the way it does,
why it works. And so, the truth in the world, the truth behind things, and that's one of the things I think that harkens the most back to the ancient practice of alchemy is this idea that they're going to find the truth through these physical and spiritual practices.
Yeah, and you don't really do, and you never really even after towards the end of it, you don't really know exactly what makes it work, other than something happens. I mean, you don't ever know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this being that sits there in front of a gate.
That's it's naturalistic philosophy. It was one of the predominant philosophies of Europe for
a long time,
a couple centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense. Kelly, you have anything off the top of your head?
I think the duty and loyalty is a big theme in this. Is the kind of dichotomy between the two of those concepts. You have a duty to do this, but then you promise your loyalty to this, and
talking about that a little bit. I'm sure that you're going this way. Alaric, or the Alaric brothers' loyalty to the military, which they've signed up for to work for, but at the same time, you have a duty to keep people safe. But what does it say whenever the government, the people that you're working for, are trying to harm the people that you're supposed to be?
Well, and then it also with the two of them, they run into the situation of, do they do the right thing for the country or people in general, but give up on their ultimate goal and reason for being in the situation that they are in. And they had to make that choice a couple of times and be pushed that. And that was always the temptation that they run into. Do we do the easy thing, get what we want at the cost of all of this letting all of this horribleness happen?
James, you have something to say?
I was going to just say that kind of also their growing sympathy with like the Ishvalans and these other people as they start to realize the atrocities of the past, as compared to the kind of sanitized version that they learned as kids. And
yeah. Well, I mean, that's just anything too.
That's just real life right there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of real life. Well, that's sometimes a little too much of real life. But and does anything else, any other things like really stand out to you guys at all?
I mean, the idea of equivalent exchange is something that gets harkened on the whole thing. So the idea of, we can boil it down to the idea of sacrifice.
Yep.
The idea that you have to give something to get something.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they start with this really, sanitized idea of like, alchemy's law of equivalent exchange. Like you have to give exactly what you're going to get, and it's very, very equal. And throughout the story, you kind of progress from that very simple transaction towards what happens in the real world, where you don't always get exactly what you gave.
Nope.
The price is often a lot more or a lot less than it should be, and it's not as fair and equivalent. And I think that leads part of the character's growth.
That leads into
because that's what Edward initially considered like his deal with the military to be. It was his equivalent exchange. It's like, I will serve as the military, and in exchange, I will get access and funding, and I'll get the freedom to pursue and explore the world and get paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up being a lot more than he thought he was getting into when he joined the military.
Yeah, they're basically just like, you need to kill these people.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't even occur to him that he had given up his own moral independence. He'd given up a lot of his freedom.
Yeah, and that leads into like the corruption of like good intentions. Like they were all doing good things, and like every single one of the characters that we get to know a little more in the story start off doing everything they do, even the horrible things, with the best intentions.
Yep.
And just them being pushed to the point where they're like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when they decide to make different choices.
Yeah.
Well, like
do they follow that path? Do they just
Do
say,
they continue?
Good? Do they be good? Are they good little soldiers and they do what they're told? Or do they make a decision that is going to be better them as a person, essentially?
Well, and that's something too, is like if you look at Bradley, for example, he is at the beginning of the show portrayed in many ways as an ideal king.
Yes.
Yep.
Like he's strong, he's moral, he seems to be upright, and it isn't until you kind of see how deep the rabbit hole goes that you realize
that's
that
a very deep rabbit hole.
Well, yes,
he's compromised himself too over the years.
Absolutely.
And he's in a lot of ways he rose above his initial origins, but then when the chips are down,
Yep.
he is what he is.
Absolutely, just like everyone else is. That's a very telltale like human experience, because whenever the chip, like you said, when the chips are down, people who are they are who they are at a base level. Whenever basically shit hits the fan, that they're going to react in a very. And whenever you see somebody pressed up against the wall and they're forced to make a decision, that's the kind of person they are. And then that's when you truly know, like, are they somebody that I want to spend spend the time to be there, be a friend, or put time and effort into this relationship, or do I need to move on?
Yeah.
And you see that pretty quickly with a lot of folks, and it's kind of interesting to see.
You do, and I do want to add that I think people are very much capable of changing, but
absolutely,
change on that level
and
is hard.
The show points that out quite a bit.
Yeah,
and it's not the superficial change you see people make a lot of. It's easy to change the way you present yourself to people. It's hard to really change on a core level.
But like I said, happy notes, people do change, and they can't be better.
Yes. And that's the thing with the show too. Is that in a lot of ways, Edward changes and matures a lot, because he starts as a fundamentally very selfish character.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's a good kid. I mean, he tries to do good and he tries to help people, but I mean, at the core of it all, it's about him and his brother and what they want to accomplish.
So to kind of sum up everything, I've got a few quotes in there for you two.
Oh,
because I'm going to have you guys on the bottom there. I'm going to have you guys saying, because my voice sounds like dirt right now.
Okay, here's one from Edward. Stand up and walk. Keep moving forward. You've got 2 good legs, so get up and use them. You're strong enough to make your own path.
See?
And that was one of the first couple episodes, right? When they're in like the sandy town. I can't remember the name of it now. But
you want to kill your
Reaver? Sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Because we got a couple in there. I cannot, I'll be honest with you, we made this a while back. The script a while back, so I don't remember exactly who I have on there.
All right. However little strength I'm capable of, I'll do everything humanly possible to protect the people I love. And in truth, they will protect the ones they love. It seems like the least we tiny humans can do for each other. Roy Mustang. One of my favorite characters, too.
He is a good character, and he's a genuine BAMF.
He really is. He does. And like I said, watching him, that was one of the things I knew that the series was different. Whenever it was like, it's probably like in the first like 15, 20 episodes where you actually get to see him like fighting. And I'm like, this wasn't in the first, anime. I'm like, he's like doing some serious like, shit here.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I understand his rank now.
And the relationship between Roy and what was the name of the guy below him that was pushing him up the ladder with his darling little daughter he always had in the picture?
Don't talk about him.
No, I was just gonna say the relationship between the two of them politically was big. And it's a lot of how it is in the real world too.
And I love that one because it's.
I have some fun facts about Colonel Mustang.
Okay, what's your fun fact?
Well, this is a huge spoiler because we like kind of avoided talking about them. But there's another character named Lust.
Yep.
And we can go and explain who she is. But the voice actor for Lust is Laura Bailey.
Yep.
And the voice actor for Roy Mustang is I'm going to forget his name. Travis Willingham.
I was going to let you get there.
Yeah, Travis Willingham. And
you may recognize these names from Critical Role.
Yes. Well, anyway, Laura recorded her lines first, and Mustang's character kills Lust. And so she recorded her scene first where she's dying, and so she's just screaming as her character dies. And then they recorded Travis's, and he's playing off what she did, and they had just gotten engaged. And so he's sitting there trying to pretend they really mean things while he's listening to his fiance scream and horror.
Acting, pretending to kill my wife.
That's exactly how it went. So that was one of those crazy things. And like I said, that's another thing. If you guys want to watch some really funny voice actors get together and just shoot the shit and like play a D&D game, check out Critical Role.
It's really good.
It's fun stuff. So, so like I said, that pretty much like sums up our experience, I guess, of the anime as a whole. Really, I mean, is there anything you guys would like to cap the end of the episode on?
I would say any anime that gets you to sit and think and talk about the nature of what it means to be human and to know things and our experience on this world, I think is a great piece of work. That gives us a show that will make you think more about your own life, which is really the highest praise you can give a piece of media like this.
And this, like Cowboy Bebop, is a show that's disconnected from the anime culture enough that people who don't normally like anime will like this. And it's definitely one of those like intro animes that you show to people.
It's not a highly stylized genre. Like it's not a isekai show. It's not full of tropes. It's its own story.
There's a reason why whenever somebody like posts on Twitter or Facebook, they're like, "What's your top anime ever?" And I'm like, FMA Brotherhood. Every single time. And they're like, you can tell, like, you can literally go back to all my posts in those forums or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, gee, I wonder what he likes. It's just like,
I don't know. There's a couple other ones.
Cowboy Bebop.
Neon Genesis.
Dude, I love Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood so
Brotherhood
much.
Is great.
Trust me, Cowboy Bebop and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood are like so close together, but I go back and forth.
Well, what kind of mood what ekes it out for me is that's
just because you watched it when you were a child.
That's true.
Like, that's like nostalgia.
It may not be. You're right. There's some nostalgia glasses on Trigon. It's
because let's be honest,
it's
if we go back, if we go back and watch it, it's good, but it's
not top of all time.
Not even during its time.
Okay, well, Neon Genesis can definitely hang up on the top of the list.
Okay,
I'll give you that one.
But
it's giant robots. It's basically kaiju fights, so it's fun.
I mean,
what ekes Cowboy Bebop out for me compared to Brotherhood is the music. I just love the music and as good as Brotherhood is, its music is a little
You are a music major.
Yes.
So
yeah, it leaves a little to be desired.
It's acceptable. So, all right, guys, we're gonna hang our hats and we're gonna go back to alchemy school and we're gonna get our classes and we're gonna go work, but we're not gonna go work for the military. We're gonna do some good, aren't we?
Yes.
We're gonna do some good. So, guys, I want to thank you both for coming out and waxing philosophical with me on as we search for our meaning to life in this tale and episode of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Guys, if you have not watched this, highly recommend it. I believe it's on Netflix right now. It is on Netflix right now because I looked it up the other day.
I think it's on Funimation as well. It's on a couple places too.
And if you're a poor child, college student, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube somewhere or some.
Or you can find clips. You can definitely find the clip of General Armstrong kicking Alex's butt. That's definitely on there.
The DVDs were pretty mainstream for a while there too, so I'm sure you could rent them somewhere.
Or even just go out and watch or read the manga. Read the manga. Like I said, just do anything you can to get a hold of this, guys, because this is like a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 anime. It's really good. So I recommend it. Guys, again, if you guys like what we talked about today, hit us up on social medias. Let us know. Facebook, Twitter, all that jazz. If you like this episode or any of the episodes, find us on any of your podcasting apps, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. Like and subscribe. Let us know. Let us know what we did right. Mm-hmm. If you thought this was a really bad episode, let us know. We want to fix these problems, guys. That's the whole point. I don't think we did a bad job, but that's just my opinion. And I'm creative. That's just me. Anyways, guys. If you like this raspy voice, tell me and I'll start smoking a pack a day and we can keep this going.
If your voice stays like this, we got to start a country band or something.
That's right. I'll just be like, my ex, she left me.
Like Grandpa wore his suit to dinner.
It's like
nearly every day.
Wow. It's just fundamental. But again, Kelly, thanks for coming by.
Of course.
James, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Have a nice day. All right, bye.
If you're interested in keeping up to date with new episodes on our channel, add us on any of your favorite podcasting apps, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seriously Pointless Conversations. If you have questions or concerns, please email us at seriouslypointlessconvo@gmail.com. We appreciate any feedback. Thank you for listening to our show.